So, you need help in the writing process. You have questions and problems and concerns and things that you need to discuss with other people. But who should you go to for help? Who should be on your writing support team and why? In today's video, you'll discover the 5 key accountability partners you need to have on your writing team as a Kingdom writer. Hey, y'all, welcome to today's Live with Lisa. If you don't know me and you're new here, my name is Lisa, and I create videos that help you learn how to write and live God's way. If you're looking to honor God with both your life and your writing, this is the place for you. I also want you to know that we go live every week in partnership with Our Given Purpose Ministries, which is an incredible ministry founded by my dear friend, Tori Slaughter, to help you grow in your walk with God and to get plugged in to godly community. So not only can you watch this live on YouTube and on Instagram, but on the Our Given Purpose Facebook page as well. So make sure you get connected there and learn more about that amazing ministry. So today we are talking again about accountability. We spoke about it last week in the last live stream, and we are continuing this discussion today, but from a different angle. Last week we talked about why accountability is so important for writers to be successful, and today we're talking about who we need to have on our accountability team, on our writing accountability team. Who do we need to work with as writers, and how do we get that support? And so this is so important for a lot of writers to consider, because it's really just something that we don't think about, consciously. We know that there are certain people that it may be obvious that we're supposed to connect with, but I believe that several of the people on this list are going to surprise you. So let's dive right in. First of all, the first accountability partner that you need as a Kingdom writer in particular is God. You need to have God as your accountability partner as a Kingdom writer. God is the ultimate accountability partner, truly. When we are seeking to write for God and to honor Him with our work, we need to not only write for God, but we need to write in partnership with God. We need to make sure that we are aligned with Him and that we are making Him our accountability partner. This is not something that we can really overemphasize the importance of. Everything that we do as Kingdom writers really should ultimately be to glorify Him. Colossians 3:23 says that whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord and not for men. And so a part of that process of really bringing God into our writing process is making sure that we're accountable to Him, making sure that we're in prayer, making sure that we're aligned with what He's telling us to do, making sure that we're seeking guidance from the Holy Spirit. And not only that we're seeking Him and seeking guidance and wisdom, but that we're actually doing what He says to do. If we're listening to God, if we're seeking Him in prayer and we're looking to honor Him with our work, but we're not actually following His instructions, that really defeats the purpose. And so we start there as Kingdom writers, that God is ultimately our ultimate accountability partner, and we need to make sure that He has the highest priority in our writing process. The second accountability partner that we need to have on our writing team is beta readers. Beta readers are key. They are so important and can be so helpful in terms of helping you reach your audience. And that's because beta readers, if you're not familiar with them, they are people who represent your ideal reader. These are people who are going to represent the audience that you're writing for. So if you're writing a mystery or a fantasy, for example, these are going to be people who read fantasies or mysteries, right? It's pretty straightforward in that way. You want to try to find people who actually read the type of books that you're writing, and they read the genre that you're writing in specifically. And so it's really important that we make sure that we are finding people when we're connecting with beta readers and we're asking them to look at our work, that we're looking for people who are either heavy readers of what we write at the very least, or that they are at the very least familiar with what we write. And so, they may not be people, ideally, we want to find people that are regular readers in our genre, right? If you're looking for, if you're writing a fantasy, for example, a fantasy novel, you want to look for readers who are, pretty consistent in reading fantasy novels, not just someone who's read one or two, right? We want to find someone who has a pattern of reading in that particular genre. And if they don't, they need to at least be people who are familiar enough with that genre to be able to give you helpful feedback about it. These are people who should understand the expectations of that genre, the expectations and the conventions of the genre that you're writing in. Different genres have different sets of expectations. And so we want to make sure that we're looking for people who are clear on those expectations and can give you feedback based on that, and that understand, and share those expectations. So they may not be people who can necessarily articulate why they understand those expectations or that they even have them, but they should have them if they're regular readers in the genre. So, for example, with a mystery, right, there's certain things that you're going to see in terms of plot, in terms of how it ends, typically in terms of the characters that are involved in a mystery, right? And so beta readers are going to understand that instinctively on some level, because that's usually why they read them. That's why they like that particular type of book. So you want to look for people who have that understanding, and especially people who are able to give you that feedback. They can, and that can give you opinions about what they like and don't like about what you've written. And so you're not looking here for people typically who are really established and knowledgeable about the craft of writing. Okay, that's key. We want to make sure we understand that. That's not typically who are going to be your beta readers. They can be, and that's just a nice benefit. But in general, a lot of beta readers are not necessarily going to give you feedback about how to become a better writer in terms of the mechanics of writing. They're not going to be able to tell you about plot and setting and narrative structure and all of the kind of nitty-gritty details of the writing process. They're going to tell you their opinions about what works and doesn't work for them as a reader. And that's important to distinguish. That's important to understand, because if you're looking for feedback about craft from beta readers, you could end up really disappointed, because that's not the type of feedback they're going to give you. They're going to tell you what works for them as your ideal audience. And you need to go into that relationship with those expectations in mind and understand that that's the case. You also, as I said earlier, you want to look for people who are going to be honest and give you feedback about what they like and what they don't like. You don't want to really, have people who are trying to be nice. Right? You don't want people who are just going to tell you what you want to hear. You want people who are going to be straightforward about what works and doesn't work for them, because that's how your audience is going to be. So these are the things you really want to look for when it comes to beta readers specifically. They need to be knowledgeable about your genre. They need to have opinions and be able to articulate those opinions to you about what they like and don't like. And they don't need to necessarily have writing or publishing industry experience. That's really not what their function is. Okay, so hope that was helpful. All right, let's go into comments. All right, amen. God needs to be the priority. Yes, absolutely, Tori. Thank you. Yes, so true. He needs to be our priority. And I love that you've included the beta readers, because it creates a reason to move out of our writer's bubble. Yes, I love that. I love that, Tori. Thank you. Yes, exactly right. We can get in our own heads as writers, and especially if we're communicating primarily with other writers, it can get a little bit tricky in terms of us missing the mark. It's kind of like if you were to think about how movie critics operate and how they think about things versus with movies, how, a commercial movie success might work, right? With the general audience, they're going to have two different sets of opinions, two different sets of ideas, and different ways of looking at the movie, right? And so a lot of the movies that are highly ranked by critics may not be as popular as with general audiences, and they may not be commercial successes, right? And so it's very similar in terms of writing. We want to make sure that we're talking to diverse groups of people and different groups of people that have different perspectives, and that will overall help us to write a stronger book at the end of the day. And Tori says, yes, amen. The beta readers prepare you to not have feelings. Listen here, okay? That is facts, if ever I heard them. Yes, it's good preparation exactly for the process of publishing, because the feedback you get from your beta readers should, in many ways, be aligned with what you're going to hear once you release your book. And so it's this good preparation process to help you build up a thick skin somewhat, and to just kind of prepare yourself for getting those opinions and that reality check that we need. So definitely that can be really helpful to get that feedback from beta readers. Absolutely. All right, the next type of accountability that we are looking at is critique partners or writing groups, right? They're called both things, and I tend to say critique partners, but writing groups works as well. Basically, these are other writers. And so it's really important that we look for other writers to connect with as well in order to be successful, because other writers can really be helpful in terms of helping you improve as a writer and improve at your craft. I talked about this quite a bit in the last live stream, if you want to check that out, about why accountability is important. But basically, when you're looking for critique partners and writing groups, you want to look for people who write well, right? Who have a level of experience with writing. Maybe they've published or they're working on publishing something, but you want to look for people who are pretty serious about writing, pretty serious about wanting to be good, wanting to develop, wanting to grow in their skills and abilities, and who are really passionate about writing. You don't want to necessarily, be in a writer's group where everyone's, really casual, and they, if they meet once a year, that's not going to work out really well, right? And you want to find people who are consistent with their writing and are committed to it and are working over time to become better, right? And that's going to be really helpful for you in terms of you being able for both sides to really benefit from that relationship. You also want to look for people as much as possible who are ideally who write in your genre, who write in the same genre that you do. Again, similar to beta readers, they're going to understand the expectations and the convention of your genre. But at the very least, they need to be familiar with the genre. Maybe they read in it, maybe they're fans of that genre as well. But they need to, at the very least, be familiar with the genre you're writing in. I ran into this issue many years ago. I was a part of a wonderful writing group and with some lovely ladies, and really enjoyed my time in that group. But over time, being a member of that group, I realized that no one in the group wrote in the same genre that I did, and it started to become confusing for me after a while, because I would receive feedback from them that contradicted what I knew was true about the genre I was writing in. Sometimes it would directly contradict what I knew I was supposed to do with that particular genre. And so over time, I started to really struggle with my writing because I was getting this feedback that was well-intended and from people who, were trying to be helpful, but weren't familiar with the type of writing that I did. And so eventually it caused some issues there. And I ended up, choosing to go to another group. But that's the kind of thing that can happen if you are connected in groups where you're not really on the same page, so to speak, right? No pun intended, right? And so that's really something you want to look for and strive for as much as possible, to find groups of people who are connected, who are committed about and serious about their writing, and who are familiar with the genre that you write in and you are familiar with theirs. That is where you're really going to get the most benefit out of your writing process. So hope that that is helpful for you. All right. Tori says, yes, consistency matters, and those groups and people are so beneficial. Absolutely, Tori. Yes, it is so helpful when you have groups of people that are consistent and who are on the same page in their writing journey. It's like you're going in the same direction, and you want to really try and find people that are going in that same direction that you are. And it may take some time. It may take some trial and error to find these people that you're looking for, and just be open to that and be flexible as that happens. Sometimes you may get connected to a group and it's not the right fit, and you may need to go different directions, and you part amicably and with kindness and wish each other well, but sometimes it's just not the right fit, and that's okay. So it's really important to understand that and recognize that, and be aware that that can happen in this process for sure. And Tori says, not to get churchy, but the critique groups are likened to denominations. Well, listen here. That's a really good parallel. That could take us on a whole different conversation. But yes, I think there's a lot of similarities there in terms of the different denominations having things that they do differently, and culturally you have different styles and things like that. And so it can be really important for us to look for things where we have kind of, again, going in that same direction, having similar things in common that really bring us together. So absolutely, that can be very helpful with writing groups, and something to look for in that process. The next thing we want to think about in terms of who we are going to have on our writing accountability team is editors. This is a big one. This is huge. No matter what type of writing you're doing, no matter what publishing path you are on, whether you are traditionally publishing or self-publishing, you are going to need to work with editors, professional editors at some point in your journey. It is not the kind of thing where you want to edit your own book and publish it on your own without any help from an editor. That is key. And if you're self-publishing, you're going to be hiring your own professional editor. If you traditionally publish, you're working with a bigger publisher that's already established. They are typically going to have editors assigned to you. And it's usually more than one. It's usually multiple editors that will be working with you in the writing process. But either way, you're going to be working with an editor at some point. And so it's really important that you recognize that you're prepared for that, and that if you're self-publishing, that you budget for that. That is really key, and it's one of those expenses in publishing that you do not want to skimp on. You do not want to cut corners or try and find someone as cheaply as possible. You really want to go with someone who's the right fit for you, who understands your vision for your book, and who is experienced, knowledgeable, and who is going to be able to polish it and help work with you on it to make it the best that it can be. So that's really important that you understand that, and that you prepare yourself for that early on. Editors are essentially people who are skilled at bringing out the best in your story at every level. Many people, when they think of editors, they think of just spelling and grammar, and they think that that's all the help that they need. That is a common misconception. A lot of writers miss out when they do that, because there are other types of editing. There's multiple types of editing, actually, that your book really needs in order to be its best. And there's different phases of the editing and revision process that you need to go through in order to get your book really where it needs to be, to where it's truly ready for publishing. And that's something that a professional editor can explain to you and talk talk to you about those different phases and what's involved. But you really want to make sure that you're aware of that and that you're choosing someone who has the expertise to help you walk through those phases and to really get your story where it needs to be. Their feedback is going to make sure that your story is strong in all areas across the board. So not just grammar, not just spelling, but also, plot and character and theme and, the structure of your book, whether the chapters are in the right order, whether they need to be moved around, whether the theme is consistent throughout, right? All of these different aspects of a book that help make it effective, whether it is communicating your message the way that you want to and it's clear, whether the pacing is good. All of these different things are things that your editor will be able to help you with. And so you want to make sure that you find someone who is experienced in all of those different aspects of storytelling so that they can help you effectively. So make sure that you are looking for that when you're looking for an editor. Really key, can actually make your or break your book in a lot of ways just because of the type of book and the type of help and the type intensity of that help that really is necessary in that process for sure. Tori says the editor is so important. Yes, yes, so true, Tori. It's a big deal. It's important. So we want to make sure that we recognize the complexity of that role and the necessity for that role for sure. And then we also have writing coaches and mentors. Writing coaches and mentors. There are a lot of different things that people talk about as it relates to coaching and mentoring. And it can be confusing if we're honest. There's a lot of information out there. A lot of people have opinions and it can get complicated. And I understand how, that can be kind of tricky because, especially when it comes to coaching, there's so many different types of coaches. There's so many, and it's a newer career in certain ways in terms of how much it has exploded recently over the past decade or so, right? There's been a lot more attention given to writing, coaches and mentors in general, in the coaching space. And so I would say that, in terms of what you can expect when you're working with a writing coach or a mentor, you're looking for someone who's going to help you with strategy, who's going to really help you to plan out the course of your writing career and to give you solutions and ideas and systems, help you to put systems in place to really set you up for success as a writer. And so they may help you with the actual writing of the book itself, but in many cases, they tend to give you help and assistance as far as sales, how to actually get your book into the hands of readers and to really set yourself up for success with sales strategies. And also in terms of the systems of even like different products and services that you can offer in the process of writing your book, right? So they might be able to talk to you about, a little bit about speaking engagements that you might set up or different products that you could create that would go alongside your book. And they're really trying to help you to establish a career of writing to make sure that you are meeting the goals that you have for your writing long term. And so when you're looking for a writing coach or mentor, you want to make sure that you are thinking about what it is that you want to get out of your book. What is the vision that you have for your book? What is the vision that God has given you for your book, truly? And what direction do you feel like that vision is supposed to take you in? And what are the goals that you're putting in place to get you to that ultimate vision? That is something that a writing coach or mentor is really going to specialize in, and their expertise will be able to help you to reach those goals that you're looking for. So make sure you're thinking about that in the process of looking for someone in that role. And so all of these different roles, again, at the end of the day, are helpful and important and really necessary in many ways if you want to have long-term success in your writing career. It is so important to make sure that you're intentional about who you have around you in the process of writing. Now, to be perfectly honest, the question here, I think the most obvious question is, do you have to have all of these people in place in order to have success in your writing career? I would say no, not necessarily. You don't necessarily have to have all of them in place, but I would say if you want to be successful, why would you not put all of them in place? Why would you not try to have as much support as possible, right? Something to think about. If we're trying to set ourselves up for long-term lasting success, and we're trying to make sure that we're really growing and building as a writer and developing into the best writer that we can be, these are the people that will really be able to help you in different ways. So you want to make sure you're thinking about how you can strategically bring in these different people on your team to really help strengthen you and to encourage you and to help you to meet those goals that you have for yourself. So make sure you're thinking about that. Make sure that you are looking in different places to try to find a lot of these people. Many of them you can either find on social media in terms of Facebook and Facebook groups. You can get connected to beta readers and critique partners there in different places. You can also, there's also certain websites that will help you to connect with them as well. One that I particularly like is meetup.com. So that's another one that can really help you in terms of, especially for writing groups. It's been really helpful for me personally. So, that in terms of helping you find local groups to meet up with in your area, it's a great source for that. And then lastly, just looking at references, people that you know personally and who have written and published. You can reach out to your network and see if there's anyone who knows editors or knows writing coaches that you might be able to work with. And so just make sure that you're doing your research, doing your due diligence of looking for these different people to bring into your circle as a writing support team. And that will really do a lot to help you get where you want to go. All right. Tori says, yes, it's the human touch that is so necessary to be a kingdom writer. Absolutely. And that's what this is about at the end of the day. We don't want to take our writing journey alone. Even though the actual act of writing is something that we do by ourselves, the process of writing and publishing a book requires many people. It requires many people to come alongside us and to really help us to get where we want to go. Whether you are traditionally publishing or self-publishing, you need that support. You need those people to help make sure that the writing is good, to help make sure that you're able to work through those problems that you might have with it, and to help you think about strategy for the long term. So make sure you go back and watch this video again, watch the replay, and watch the replay from last week as well to really get that understanding of how an accountability team can help you as a writer. I really believe it makes all the difference in terms of writers who finish their book and publish and go on to publish even more books in the future, and those who might fizzle out and get discouraged at the end of the day. That support makes all the difference. So make sure that you are looking for that and make sure that you are getting plugged in with groups and people that will be able to help you. So if this video was helpful for you, if it benefited you and it blessed you, and you want to learn more about how to write and live God's way, let's make this a regular thing. Go ahead and like and subscribe, and make sure you leave a comment below letting me know what you're working on. I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you're working on and what questions you have about writing God's way. So that is it for today. That is it for this video. And I hope it blessed you. If you watched on live or on the replay, thank you for being here. And that is it for this week's Live with Lisa. I'll see y'all next week. And until next time, take care and God bless.